Welcome, everyone. My name is Chris Zellers, and I'm with Rutgers Cooperative Extension of Cape May County, and I work in the Family and Community Health Sciences Department. And today's subject is one of the series that I'm doing, the 8 Dimensions of Wellness. And this one in particular is the intellectual wellness component. And before we get started, I just wanted to review the cooperative extension structure for those of you who might not be familiar with us. Rutgers Cooperative Extension is a partnership between the county boards of chosen commissioners. They are part of Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, and the USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture. And right now we have faculty or staff in 21 of the 21 New Jersey counties. We encompass 3 departments, which include agriculture and natural resources, 4-H youth development, and family and community health sciences, or FCHS, which is my department. And here at FCHS, we provide outreach in New Jersey and beyond on topics related to nutrition, chronic disease prevention, food safety, and overall wellness, which is our topic today. And at the end of the conversation, I have a list of our my emails on there that you can feel free to email me. I will email you back. So email addresses on there, our Facebook page, and our website. I encourage you to go to the website to learn more. We have a lot of resources from recipes to publications, all kinds of stuff on there. And Rutgers Cooperative Extension is an affirmative action equal opportunity employer. So today's presentation was written by my colleague, Jen Shakaitis. And it's going, like I said, it's presented by me, Chris Zellers, and I am the Family and Community Health Sciences educator for Cape May County for Rutgers Cooperative Extension. So I mentioned in the last slide that Jen had written this presentation and then I'm presenting it. Jen and I are actually working on this curriculum together, which consists of 10 lessons. And we are trying to do this so that we can reach out to people. It's a big hot topic area that we're getting feedback from across the nation about it. And I'm doing this series as a lunch and learn here in Cape May to try to gauge what people think about the presentations and the lessons overall. So what I've done in order to get you all to participate and want to be part of this is as you watch the presentations, I've created a little survey for the end. So what will happen is, I want to gauge the interest in what you're thinking. After the presentation today, at some point within the next week or so, you will receive an email from Morgan Gifford in my office, who, by the way, is on helping behind the scenes, the great Oz there, always doing a great job. And so she will send out an email to you, and that's going to have a survey link in it. If you complete that survey that comes in the email, just a couple of questions on there, it'll take you all of 5 minutes, and leave your email address, you will be entered to win one of the 15 Fitbits we're giving away to try to get people to take this survey. If you complete the survey, if you complete all 10 surveys because you've watched all 10, then you will be entered 10 times, so you have a greater chance. There will be a word in the middle of the presentation, somewhere hidden in the presentation, that you have to put in the survey, so it shows that you watched the entire presentation, hopefully, because we want to get your honest opinion and see what things you're thinking about this information, and get your honest feedback. Make sure if you register for these classes that your email is correct, so we can email you the information, the survey, so you can fill it out. Know the code word, as I said, and the Fitbits are going to be distributed after the last class, so probably sometime in November. We'll reach out to the winners of those and get those distributed. So if you already have a Fitbit, hey, maybe you use it for a Christmas present, right? Save you some dollars on the Christmas shopping end. But I encourage you to complete that. We are getting a few more responses now. And if you have missed any of the presentations, we've started putting them up online on our YouTube page for the Rutgers Cooperative Extension to Cape May County's YouTube page. You can view them there if you want to go back and watch any of them, okay? And at this point, I'm going to ask Morgan to please release the poll. We're going to do a quick poll with you all. And this is poll 2. Morgan, can you, and there you go, and go back to 1, please. I think it looks like it was poll 2. Oh no, you're good.
It
You
should
can
be
leave that
poll
one.
1 now.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, y'all. It's hard. It's hard when you're back there doing all this stuff. There's all this stuff happening on these webinars. So thank you, Morgan. So if you all could complete that questionnaire for us, I appreciate it. Rutgers likes to know that we're reaching our audience and whom we're reaching in the audience. So it's very helpful to us for you to complete that poll survey. Additionally, if you want to get your phones out, scan the QR code that's up there now. And at the end of the presentation, if you complete that, even if you just complete the first 2 questions, it's very helpful. I am in the tenure stream at Rutgers Cooperative Extension, and I need to have grades of my teaching. So the first 2 questions relate back to that. It's very helpful for me to have to show my teaching effectiveness. So I appreciate you doing that. And if you do complete those first 2 questions, if you scan down to the bottom on that survey, there's a spot for you to leave an email, and we do a drawing once a quarter for winners of completing that survey. And I appreciate it. I'll pop it up again at the end of the presentation. All right, so enough with the housekeeping. Let's get busy here. Let's talk about the objectives for today's class. So we're going to identify the dimensions of wellness. We're going to define intellectual wellness, and we're going to recognize the importance of, I have intellectual up there too, environmental instead of intellectual. Sorry about that, y'all. Hopefully I have the right slideshow in here. So we're gonna put the intellectual wellness should be in there, not the environmental. And we're gonna explore ways to achieve, maintain, or improve intellectual wellness. And we're gonna understand how intellectual wellness affects and is affected by all the other 8 dimensions of wellness. So wellness, again, I've said this in the previous presentations. We go over this in the beginning as kind of a caveat to loop them all together. But it's a $4 trillion business. There's a lot of people that are involved. They've latched on to the idea of wellness, especially, in recent times, there's a lot of talk about emotional wellness and overall wellness. And people want to feel better. People are not feeling themselves. A lot of people are, having trauma following a pandemic and things like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about what wellness is, but it is, while you're searching for that term, if you go online and you say, what is wellness? What are they talking about? You might see things like spas or yoga classes or people meditating. Maybe even, you see an ad for essential oils or a wellness coach or something like that. And these things might contribute to your overall wellness, but, there's sort of an undefined idea that people are always looking for. When I ask people what they mean by wellness, they say, oh, physical and emotional means wellness. And, it's used as a catch-all phrase, but there's nothing, people have a hard time pinning it down because it's kind of that nebulous concept. Like, what is it? It's floating out there in the air. So let's talk a little bit about it, because it turns out there actually is a definition for wellness, and it comes from SAMSHA. Because there's such a big industry and there's so many people out there talking about it, it is important to define it and come up with a definition that is steeped in evidence and science. So SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, has come up with the balance of 8 different components of wellness or dimensions of wellness. And their definition envisions wellness not as the absence of disease, illness, and stress, but as the presence of a positive purpose in life. And I mentioned that a couple times as we go through. You want to try to keep that positive purpose in life. You want to look at, it's corny to say, but look at the bright side. You want to have satisfying work and play. You want to have joyful relationships. You want to have a healthy body and living environment and overall happiness. And these 8 dimensions defined by SAMHSA include social, emotional, physical, financial, occupational, spiritual, environmental, and today we're talking about the intellectual dimension. So all 8 of those are important and they're all included. And today's, like I said, is intellectual. Did have the right slideshow. All right, so as a note, we're going to put up all 8 components. These are in alphabetical order. They are not in order of importance. So make sure that you know that. Jen and I put them in alphabetical order just for consistency's sake. And the fact that intellectual wellness comes out at 4 does not mean it's any more or less important than the ones above or below it. So keep that in mind as they're popping up right now. And you'll notice that intellectual wellness means recognizing creative abilities and finding ways to expand knowledge and skills. I was thinking about this morning when I was driving into work, and I thought, sometimes I feel like intellectual wellness, especially when you were younger, like the thought of school. And I remember like when my boys were younger and we were talking to intellectual wellness, we didn't necessarily talk about it, but when you talked about schoolwork, right, especially summer schoolwork, it was like, oh, they'd be waiting to the last minute. I was nagging. So it was a good thing to help expand their minds during the summer so they weren't, sitting idly. But I think back to that time, and it was kind of a chore on both of our ends. And I think that it's really important to look at intellectual wellness for the advantage that it is, and not that, like, school kind of thing, because that's not really what it is. It involves many things that help to keep our brains active and our intellect expanding. And that's important, especially as we age. That brain is like a muscle, and we want to make sure that we're working that muscle and keeping ourselves sharp. So doing the things that we're going to talk about today can really help with that. And so rather than looking at it as, oh, I have to read this, or, try to find something that's inspiring to you, positive, as we talked about in that slide a couple back, and ways that are going to help you feel like you're engaged. So why do we talk about intellectual wellness, and why are we focusing that on today? Intellectual wellness involves seeking out opportunities to exercise our brain, so to speak. So to challenge ourselves to learn new things and think in new ways. And there's some emerging research that seems to indicate that the more we challenge ourselves, the better out our brains are protected from memory loss. So again, with that, when you're young, it's kind of, oh, school. But as we age, we recognize the fact that we want to keep that going, and we want to have, protect memory loss. We want to make our brains work and be productive as we move through our lives. So in other words, the more complicated the concepts or skills are that we push ourselves to learn, the more likely we may be to, put off degenerative brain disease as we age. All right. So every time I do one of these lessons, and it's really, really important, I say this, and I want to make sure I say it even for today. When you're trying to, look at the 8 dimensions of wellness, and you're trying to achieve these 8 dimensions of wellness, it's a lot. Especially, I always resort back to that New Year's resolution idea, where you're like, okay, it's a new year, it's a new me, I'm going to do all this great stuff. But usually it falls off by, February at the latest. So instead of trying to break off all these things and do all this stuff at once to make changes, take small steps. Don't get overwhelmed. Try to break these things apart into little steps. As you listen to the presentation, think about where you might start to achieve intellectual wellness if it's an area that you're not feeling so well in, and try to make a goal to do that one aspect rather than everything I'm saying today at once. You may be able to take off more than one thing, or they may overlap. But if you really want to accomplish this, then it's probably better to do it in little steps. And that goes for all the 8 dimensions and the things that we talk about in those classes. If you already are feeling satisfied with your intellectual wellness, look at ways it overlaps with the other dimensions of wellness, and how you might use the strength you have in intellectual wellness to succeed in some of the other dimensions that you might not feel so, solid in. So for instance, if your intellectual wellness, how can you use that to support your occupational wellness? If you're feeling maybe not so fulfilled in your occupational wellness, how can you do things outside of work or occupation to make that feel more fulfilling in the area of intellectual wellness? All right, so as I mentioned, the concepts behind this are based from SAMSHA. And there's 4 areas that SAMHSA identifies as intellectual wellness. And the first one is personal interests. Then there's education, brain exercise, and finally conversation. And we're going to take a minute to look at all 4 of these, understand areas to understand them better, and to talk about how we might be able to incorporate them into our lives. And, I thought it was really interesting, the conversation part. And I go back all the time to the days of lockdown, during the pandemic, and how isolating that felt for everyone. And how much I really miss like those really like mundane conversations you have with people, even if it was a, hey, how are you? Or have a good day kind of thing. How they are such a good part of our lives. And I really noticed that when I was looking at this lesson to teach it today, like, wow, that is something you don't always think about when you're thinking about intellectual wellness or being well overall, how impactful the conversations you have with others can be. So let's take a minute here, and we're going to talk about improving and maintaining intellectual wellness in the areas we just identified. And you can expand your intellect by sharing your intellect. So for example, to achieve intellectual wellness, sharing your knowledge in a workshop or skills you have or experience you have might not only be beneficial to those that you're teaching, but it also could help your intellectual wellness as well. So take those talents that you have and share them with others, and it's going to make you fulfilled and them as well. Think about teaching a language, maybe if you have a gift and you're fortunate enough to be bilingual or trilingual. Think about maybe teaching that to others, even if it's a one-on-one situation, or if for instance, if you know how to sew, or you're really good at math or strong subject area for teaching, you could tutor someone. Sharing these gifts that you have could make you feel intellectually well, and it could help your overall wellness as too in that, and you're helping somebody else, right? Try to find a place to teach a class, maybe a local library or organization that needs your talents. I know I have a lovely neighbor, and she's a retired school teacher, and she was a music teacher. So in her retirement, she teaches students different instruments in her home, and that's very fulfilling for her because she's able to take that talent she has, and she loves and she enjoyed, and it keeps her sharp, and it helps her share her talents with others. So it fulfills her in a lot of ways. Another example is, maybe, do you enjoy reading? And if so, think about the books that you would enjoy reading. I have a little list in my phone of things that I'm reading, that I'll see different people, or I'll talk to different people, and they're like, oh, Chris, you have to try this book. You have to read this book. It's really great. So I find things that have interest to me, that I read, but I also, obviously, for my job, I have to read a lot too. So sometimes I don't know if you can see, there's a pile somewhere here in my office of stuff that I'm reading for work too. So those things are important to keep us intellectually well. And it's not just books. You might consider reading blogs, and there's a lot of different opportunities out there right now that could help your intellectual wellness. Some people have a really long commute. There's books on that you can, podcasts and books that you can listen to too, that will help your intellectual wellness. So you can read for fun, or you can read to improve your intellectual wellness or expand it in a way professionally, or something you're just interested in. And it really helps to work your mind to do these things, because it helps to expand your thought processes and makes you think a little bit. You might want to consider being a member at the local library, and that way you have access to not just books, but events that they offer, magazines. And the local libraries are a wonderful resource, and they offer so many learning opportunities to expand the mind. I know I just was over meeting with some of the folks here at the Cape May Courthouse Library, and I'm pretty knowledgeable about the things they do, and I do participate in, not just with those libraries, but other libraries throughout the county, and offering lessons. And I was amazed at how many things they offer. And it's really worth checking out, especially, it's a rainy day today. If the kiddos are home, it's a great opportunity. They have so many programs. So I highly encourage you to check out what is offered at the library. It's not just checking in and out books. It is also other things they have to offer. And I will say, they do, if you rather read on a Kindle or a iPad, they have the opportunity that you can get those things on your from the library at no cost. Some of the books there that they have, you can get them that way too. Another good thing to do is learn a new hobby or skill. If think about maybe considering creative arts such as drawing or pottery or photography. Learning something new like that. Sometimes there's places that offer classes. Again, the libraries a lot of times offer classes for those things, or there's businesses out there that do it. I know we did a thing last winter, my daughter-in-laws and I, and we went with their moms and my mom, and we went candle making, which I had never done before. So that was something fun we sought out. And again, it's just something fun. We're being social, so it kind of covers that social dimension of wellness. And at the same time, we're expanding our intellectual wellness by learning a new craft or trait or skill. And another good thing is maybe martial arts, learning about nature. If you don't know something or you're interested in it and you want to learn more about it, learn about improving your computer skills. That's always a good one too. Everything's always changing. Morgan and I went to get on this Zoom today, and she said, oh, Zoom changed, so it's always changing. It's ever changing, our computer world. Great idea to learn new skills there, and that'll help expand your mind and broaden it. Again, libraries are a great place to learn skills or hobbies. Also, community colleges or local colleges might have an opportunity. I found out from being on an interview committee that Rutgers offers some classes for senior adults. So they get senior citizens can audit classes from Rutgers. I never knew that. So see, learn something new there. But if there's seniors out there and they're looking maybe a history class they always wanted to take or something, they should check out Rutgers, because apparently we do offer classes that are audible. You can audit if you're a senior citizen. So look for events in your area, check them out, do a little research, find out what might support your interest. Even, looking in the newspaper or on web pages for activities is a good way to find out what's happening in your area. And the nice thing is now with our electronic expansions, we can do things all over electronically or virtually. Another good thing to do is what you're doing today, maybe attend a lecture, go to a concert or a play. There's a lot of great plays at local playhouses. You don't have to go to Broadway. Look for a smaller local theater company. Some of these productions are just excellent. They're cost effective, and they're good ways to enjoy things that'll expand your mind. All great ideas, all things to do that you might not have thought of. And like I said before, you're not only expanding your intellectual, but also your social wellness and maybe your emotional wellness. So there's a lot of ways that will interact by helping your intellectual wellness and the other dimensions too. All right, so the next area is education in improving and maintaining intellectual wellness. The first way to maintain and improve your intellectual wellness is through education. We talked about the last one. This is second. Let's look at, maybe taking a class. We talked about that in the last thing to, learn a new skill or learn something that interests you. But if you didn't have room for electives in college, think about, well, what did I really want to learn about? Like there's interesting things. I know there's so many interesting electives out there. Maybe you try, checking out a community college or local college that you can add those in now if you're done your degree or if you want to take one. So consider taking a class. And that you never know what that new skill is going to bring you. So for instance, if you do professional development, I know some professions require you do professional development, but if they don't, you could do that on your own. That might lead to an increase in pay or a new job opportunity because you're doing professional development and expanding yourself. That you never know what's going to pop up from it and how that's going to work, but it's a good idea to do professional development. If not in your area, then maybe an area you're interested in expanding to or exploring or adding into your onto your resume for something to expand your career opportunities. Again, local college websites, places are good for the public, and they're an opportunity for you. And sometimes the employers pay for it too, which is really great. So if you're doing professional development, check with your HR department and see if it's something that's covered. And, even if it's a partial pay, if it's something you want to do, you never know. That could be a good way to help expand your intellectual ability and also, get costs paid for. and then again, like try doing something that you've never really wanted, you never thought about doing before. If you've always had interest in it, sometimes there's apps that you can learn things on, like language apps and things like that, or sometimes there's free classes. And cooperative extension is always a good resource. Check out our webpage because we have classes here. Our agriculture and natural resources department and family and community health sciences and 4-H youth development, we teach a lot of classes. So if you're interested in gardening, maybe starting a garden next year, check out what we have on our webpage for the A&R, because they might be doing a class on that. And we're always open to hear what you want to learn, so feel free to reach out and tell us, and if it's something in our wheelhouse, we'll certainly give it a try. All right, so to improve and maintain your intellectual wellness with brain exercises, check out your local libraries and your bookstores again. And where's a cool place to check too that you might not think of is sometimes in secondhand stores, they'll have old books. So they might be old history books in there that you can get really inexpensively. The libraries a lot of times will have sales. So if you want to take it with you, or they'll have like books giveaways where they have too much stock or something. So check out thrift stores, check out the libraries. Obviously, if you're a member at the library, you can check out the books anyway. Think about online things for, I'm sorry, like listening while in the car or something like that, as long as you're safe, like to a podcast or something, as I mentioned before. Okay, and then also think about something that will be covering current affairs topics, because they're important too. They'll keep your mind sharp. Just make sure that in these brain exercises that it's something that's keeping you emotionally well too, and not stretching you in that regard. Brain and memory games. These are both fun and they make your brain work. They work that muscle in your brain. So that muscle of a brain. So crossword puzzles and Sudoku puzzles can be challenging, word finds, things like that. They all work our brain. Try doing these things and challenging your brains. Sometimes there's web sites that have specific games that you can check out for brain and memory ideas. There's a lot of cost-free things. I would caution you not to spend too much time online. If you can do it paper and pencil, that might be helpful too to your brain. So do what fits for you, but make sure to keep it in moderation if it's on a digital type application. But try to challenge your brain. Try to do things that are a little more challenging for yourself. Maybe I know one of the things I used to do, there was a word game that I used to play, but they always gave you the definition of the word. So try doing things that are going to expand, like aren't just playing a game, but are going to expand your mind and your memory and your intellect. You want to try to stay current on current affairs, like I mentioned, in a healthy way, and use a reliable source for current events, and don't fall victim to repetitive biased news saying the same thing over and over again, because that could impact your emotional health and that type of thing. Also, you want to try to look at social media on a very limited basis. Try not to spend too much time on nonsensical things. That's not going to expand your mind. It's going to, keep you in a little box instead of expanding it and kind of numb the mind. So look for a new hobby. Try to find ways to put down the phone and stop scrolling and get out there and see the world. Even if it's you just go for a walk and you check out, like, okay, I'm going to check out the birds today. I mean, that's something that can expand your intellect over just sitting and scrolling all the time. All right, conversations. So conversations can help us to gain and enhance understanding of issues and open our minds to viewpoints that we may not have considered. And it's really important to do this because it's part of improving and maintaining our intellectual wellness. And engaging with others in this way really does help us get an appreciation of various issues and points of view. So you want to be open-minded. You want to be kind and respectful when you're having discussions with others and conversations with others. But you want to do it in a way that you're not getting heated and it's not weighing you down. You want to remember, I said this before, SAMHSA's definition of wellness includes finding positive in life. And you want to avoid negative interactions when possible and try to fill up on positive interactions that make you feel good. You want to find friends or colleagues that stimulate your mind and that you can engage in interesting topics with. And if you don't have a group of friends that you can engage with, try joining a club or an organization that supports a hobby, like a garden club or maybe a book club, and find a hobby or find a hobby maybe like I talked about earlier that'll help you discover ways to engage in stimulating conversations. So, if you take part in a book club or have stimulating debates or things like that, those things are going to help to increase, again, work that mind, expand it, keep it sharp, hold off memory loss type issues. All right, so those were the different areas that were covered by SAMHSA. And I mentioned in the beginning that each wellness component really can affect the other one. And I would like to give you some examples of that. So for instance, you might say, well, how can physical wellness be impacted by intellectual wellness? If you engage in physical exercise, it's been shown to improve cognitive function. And that, of course, can help with your intellectual wellness. If you're more cognitively sound, it'll be easier for you to have conversations like we just talked about and seek out things that'll help to expand your intellect. So little exercise goes a long way because it'll help to expand and improve your cognitive function, whereby helping you with your intellectual wellness. And then social wellness, if we seek out ways to foster our intellectual wellness, like taking a class or attending a lecture or joining a club, like I mentioned, those activities foster your social wellness, but they also support your intellectual wellness. So you probably heard when I was talking today, a lot of times the things that I was offering, like conversations and classes and, interacting with people, a lot of them are social things, but they are also supporting our intellectual wellness. And then if our financial wellness is healthy, then, it's going to probably be more helpful in nurturing our intellectual wellness. So we could take a class or something like that. If it's not so healthy, financial wellness isn't so healthy, it might hurt our intellect because it might limit what we can and cannot do. So we want to keep those things in mind and look at how everything interacts. And at this point, Morgan, I'm going to ask you to release the second poll. And if you all could fill out that poll, I'd be very, very grateful. And just to review, when the survey comes out at the end of the presentation today, within the next week, if you click on the survey link and fill it out, leave your email, you will be entered to win one of the Fitbits. And with that being said, since it's a rainy day, I'm going to have the word of the week be rain, R-A-I-N. So when you are asked to fill this out and you're looking at, what the word is, it's rain. So hopefully we could use the rain, certainly, but on a summer day, it's not always so fun, but hopefully that clears up a little sooner than later. And so again, you can win one of 15 Fitbits. You need to complete the survey that's sent after the class. Make sure your email is correct when you register. So I have the right email to mail out the follow-up survey for you. Note that code word that I just gave you. And again, the Fitbits will be sent out after our last class, so sometime in November. This is the survey again. If you could fill that out. And like I said, if you scroll down in that, leave your email. If you're interested, and you could be entered to win a prize. This is for my teaching purposes that I need to have this completed. The university asked that I complete these. So it's very helpful to me in my processes to know how you feel. And then finally, we have an advertisement for next month. Next month is spiritual wellness. We will be doing that lunch and learn on August 15th at 12:30. And if you hold up the camera, you can register for that. And it's also located on our webpage that you can register for that class next month. All right, so let's sum up this class for intellectual wellness. As we said, it really does involve many things that keep our brains active and our intellect expanding. And as you probably saw, everybody's different. There's a lot of ways you can do this. You can think of other ways. Suggestions were made here. It's important, and I think it's probably something that's easily overlooked. You know, we think about exercising and maybe our emotional wellness a lot, but our intellectual wellness really complements emotional wellness. It complements our physical wellness, and like I said, if you're physically active, it helps your intellectual wellness. So it does tie in, and they overlap. It's just one of the 8 dimensions, and that's important to remember too. And it can affect and be affected by all the other dimensions of wellness. And there's really many things that you can do to achieve, maintain, and improve your sense of intellectual wellness. Remember to take the suggestions that we had today one step at a time and focus on your intellectual wellness by, doing that one step at a time. And that could really help your overall well-being. So if you're thinking, all right, I need some intellectual interaction, how am I going to do this? Maybe say, okay, I'm going to join a book club, or I'm going to, I look at a hobby that I really enjoy. And the thing is that the hobby part is different to everybody. And some people have talents in one area and others in another. So find what works for you. That's what's important, because this is very individual. These are the resources for today's class. And then, as I mentioned, here's my contact information, and you're welcome to email me. Check out the information that we have on our websites. Both the state and local websites have information like recipes and publications and things that are available. Somebody's in the chat. Let's see. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm going to try to get this opened a little bit further. Please send your survey link. The code on the screen, please show. I'm not sure which one we want to go back to. So I'll go back to a couple of them here. Let's see. Oop. Oop. So this is the one to scan for the survey to respond to the teaching. If you need that one. And and then the registration is this one. So I wasn't sure which one the comment wanted. And you can, and again, feel free to email me afterwards. I'm glad to write back and let people know any questions. I'll put my email in the chat here. There's my email. So any other questions? I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. And like I said, we'll be back in August with the next Lunch and Learn on this topic.